On all of this, we are joined by the Wolf of Wall Street himself, Jordan Belfort. Thank you so much for coming on. I just want to start, first off, do you buy Robinhood's excuse for stopping GameStop and AMC buys today?
I actually do.
Yeah.
So here's the truth is, and I love Dave Portnoy, by the way.
Yeah.
In this case, he's right and he's wrong. And everything he says, Wall Street's out to screw the little guy. They have to then bail out Wall Street. But in this particular case, Robinhood is in a terrible, terrible position because what happens is they are a broker. They're booking all these trades. At the end of the day, when this thing collapses, and it definitely will, okay? At some point, GameStop will come back down to earth in a massive way, and it's going to be like catching a falling knife. And what happens is the brokerage firm that's booking all these trades, they're going to be liable for losses in people's accounts if they blow through their margin requirements, and they could literally lose $10 billion in a single day. That's I think what's going on more than anything else. Now, that being said, they could also be getting pressured by, he said, other clearing brokers are pressuring him. So, yeah, he's getting pressure from clearing brokers. But again, just for self-preservation's sake, okay, if I was that guy, I wouldn't have shut it down. I would have increased margin dramatically and made it more expensive for people to trade. He probably made the wrong decision by just shutting something down because he could have accomplished it without pissing off so many people. But Dave's right. They're always screwing the little guy. He's right about that.
Okay, that's fair. So do you think Robinhood will change anything tomorrow? Do they bend to this pressure, or do they just stay where they are?
I think they'll have to bend because what's going to happen is they're in a no-win situation. Right. What they're going to do, my guess, is they will probably allow some trading. They'll make it more expensive, meaning you have to put up more collateral to trade, and they'll try to limit the flow like that. But I don't think at this point that you're protecting hedge funds. That they've been destroyed already. Like right now, that money's rolled over once people are back short at a much higher price. I don't think it's really about they're doing things because they're getting pressure from hedge funds that lost money. Yeah. Those hedge funds got decimated already. Yeah. That damage has been done. They're pretty much dead and on the floor.
You going to short this thing? I mean, would you do it? It's at, it's up in after hours. It's really high. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are thinking we got to short this thing now. It's going to come down.
I have good friends who are the biggest short sellers in the world. I would never do that. I hate being a short seller because you're betting on everyone else's misery. I would not like to be the guy who smiles when every small investor is getting destroyed. I wouldn't do it. There's a lot of money to be made on the short side for sure at a certain point, but I'd rather be on the long side on the way up because you're making money at everyone else's pain. It's a miserable, existence, and you want to be in the shadows if you're doing it. So that's not for me.
Okay, fair enough. A lot of people got really mad at Citadel and Steve Cohen, who's the Mets owner today. And I want to ask you why. What did they allegedly do in this thing?
So what they're saying is here, and again, you don't know exactly what's happening, but that they took losses. They bailed out one of the larger hedge funds that lost apparently billions of dollars in this, and they're accusing them of essentially pressuring and forcing this ban on not only from Robinhood but also other platforms. I believe stopped the trading, eliminated people's ability to buy, so they're holding them responsible. And they might very well be doing that. I just don't think that's why Robinhood closed down trading. I understand if I was that guy, you'd be like, oh, my God, I'm going to be out of business when this thing is all over. Seriously. Yeah. I don't think people get that. So the guy deserves a little bit of a break. He really does.
Yeah, no, I think Robinhood's getting a lot of heat right now. And I wasn't sure whether or not they deserved it myself because you're watching all this and you're like, this poor guy's going to jump off a building. I mean, this is scary stuff.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. My friend today said, there's this narrative right now that it's just the little guys versus the hedge funds and all this. But he said the reality is that there's a lot of Wall Street that joined up with the little guys saying, this is a cool move, let's try this. And they're the reason this thing got pushed so big and these hedge funds are so down. That it's really a lot of Wall Street that's making a ton of money off of this. Is that true?
I think it's Wall Street and Main Street both making money. Right. And remember, what happens with these stocks, the reason they target stocks like GameStop that have what's called a very high short interest. People have shorted the stock because they believe the fundamentals are crappy and it's going to basically either go close to zero or to zero.
Exactly.
So when you do that, you create a situation where you're forced to have to eventually buy it back. So there's this dynamic, a rubber band effect. If the stock starts to rise past a certain point, it becomes very expensive. The hedge funds have to put more collateral up to maintain their position.
Yeah.
And eventually, if it goes up too much like it did in GameStop, they don't have the collateral, and they have to just basically close out, and they end up suffering massive losses. Now, just so you know, imagine if that happened and that hedge fund was clearing its business through Robinhood, and they lost more than they had. Robinhood would have to pay the loss. That's the problem if it gets even worse. So the broker is in a very bad position here.
Yeah, he really is. That's a real pickle. I want to change it up, and I want to widen this out. We've seen over the last, I don't know, what, 10, 12 years, since 2008, really, there's a hatred towards Wall Street. Why do you think that is?
It's justified, and that's where, what Dave Portnoy was saying today, I was laughing while he was ranting, because he's right about all of that stuff, but I think he was just off in terms of why Robinhood did what they did. But everything he said is true. Wall Street screws over the little guy routinely on a daily basis, and then when they screw up big time, guess what? We're too big to fail, and the little guy bails them out. We've seen it happen again and again. And it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. It really, really is that there has been no hell to pay for the people at the highest levels that allowed these things to happen. So I think the anger is justified. I think it's palpable, and I think it's going to continue on. And now there's a little bit of some way for people to get even, so to speak.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, though. I mean, this is not going to be a nice question, but a lot of people say that you are the embodiment of that. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, back in the day,
everybody knows your story, yeah.
But I was actually doing what the Robinhood people are doing. In other words, what was so ironic when I watched this happening is that this is really like a modified pump and dump scheme where everybody, the first thing you said when you were starting your show is all these people banded together and got this. That's illegal. Just so you know, you can't band together and collude together to drive up the price of a stock and hurt short sells. As much as you hate short sells, and I don't like them very much either, it's illegal to collude together. Now, obviously, it's a very tough thing to prove, and I don't believe the SEC will start cracking down like that. But the point is that's what I was doing. So, in terms of the embodiment, I think I was the embodiment of greed more than anything else back in the day. Yeah. But, this is when I looked at this, I was like, wow, what an interesting phenomenon that because of the power of the internet, it just shows you that this ability for people to communicate, it levels the playing field. It really does. And it can really cause massive pain for the traditional financial structure where they think they have the access to all the information and the monopoly on how trading goes. And look what happens when it gets reversed. It can get very ugly very fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, I want to thank you for coming on. I've read your book. It's one of the best books I've ever read. Nobody has a better story than you in the world. And I was very excited to interview you. Absolutely. Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you, sir. All right.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.